Hello, everyone. Really glad you could come to the Green Gathering. It's very much my favourite festival. It's a gathering of all the people and the concerned citizens and the activists and the Green Focus people from all down the years. You get to come see the Green Gathering, see a lot of people from all down the years who've been change makers, making change. Lovely to see the Undercurrents team on the filming. So hello, my name's Phoenix. I like getting into empty buildings and putting things up on the wall with blue tack and creating community centres to help the environment with me and my friends. It's always a collective of people, a circle of people. So I'm going to tell you about the journey of the climate emergency centres and the network and what we've been doing a little bit over the last 35 years. We have basically been setting up eco-community centres that are do-it-yourself culture. People get together and self-organise in a space to help the environment, to help community, to help campaign on a lot of different issues over a lot of different years. Before I go fully into the history of it, though, we started at the Rio Earth Summit, basically. Our group saying not enough was being done. We read what was going on at the Rio Earth Summit, how 179 governments were getting together and they were making some agreements, but they were taking things out of the agreements about renewable energy because the oil companies told them to, and they were also walling up people in the favelas and the ghettos so that they wouldn't be seen by all the governments when they came in and doing some not very nice things to them at all. We got together and said, we've got to do something because governments are not doing enough. And here we are 35 years later, and it's a similar story, but we're doing a lot of things. So basically, during lockdown, I sat down from 35 years of running eco-community centres and put it into a handbook and how to set up a climate emergency centre in 10 steps. But first of all, the beginning, what I like to do from the last couple of years doing this Green Gathering is we want to do a little time travel. We want to do a little imagination exercise, just 1 minute on each one. I want you to, just for 1 minute, close your eyes and imagine that we continue carrying on the way we're going with fossil fuels, with consuming lots, not sharing, polluting the air, the water, the atmosphere, consuming all the animals, polluting the rivers. What is it going to be like in 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time? So I just want you to close your eyes and think about that as we reach more and more of these environmental tipping points, as forests are burning, as deserts are spreading, food is becoming more scarce, rivers, air, water becoming more polluted. So imagine what kind of future we're headed into if we carry on this trajectory our governments have set us on. What does that future look like? It's not a very nice future. It's a pretty grim future. It's a future where we're not sharing and cooperating, where we're consuming everything till there's very little left of nature, literally consuming the planet. And then, as another little mind exercise on the time travel, for 1 minute, I would like you, if you want to close your eyes and imagine a better future, a sustainable future, a future where we cooperate, a future where we share resources, a future where things get better, a future with a bit more hope, where we are cooperating across all borders and helping other human beings, sharing resources, putting in the renewable energy, replanting the forests, rewilding the land, sharing the land out, helping each other cooperatively. So imagine that for up to a minute. Getting together in circles and dancing and celebrating. Okay, so sometimes when we do the time travel experiment, we want to think about that better future, and we also want to work back in steps as to how we get to that better future. And I think you'd all agree we probably want to be in the second future, not the first one. As quantum physics talks about many different multiverses, many different possibilities, and I believe for many, many years, the more action we take, the more things we do, every single little action makes a slightly better future. Everything we recycle, every conversation we have, every leaflet we give out, every centre we set up, every project we help makes a slightly better future for us and our grandchildren. We have to think 7 generations ahead, like the Native Americans say. So what we're trying to do with, and we are doing with the climate emergency centres, is building the infrastructure and the physical spaces for those better futures to come in. They are spaces on the high street that reach out to Joe and Jane public, people who don't always see all the amazing things that we see at the green festivals, which is the cutting edge of change. So a little bit of history. We squatted buildings for 25 years, and we tried legally to get buildings. We asked Islington Council. Some black guys came to us and said, we want to work with you and get the young kids who are getting into gangs and drugs into doing stuff. We've heard about your Rainbow Centre project. And we tried the legal route with Islington Council, did a whole business plan, and they said to give it free to a community group. 9 months later, they said, no, we're not giving it free. We're going to sell it for £1 million. So we got frustrated. We squatted a couple of buildings. We went and squatted a massive church and called it the One World Rainbow Centre. And over the next 2.5 years, lots and lots and lots of people came there from all over the country, all over the world. It was the backbone of some of the British road protest movement. Loads of projects, loads of people, loads of parties, events came into that space. Hemp conferences, talks, workshops, conferences about the Criminal Justice Act. It was a massive hub of creating lots of things. And over 25 years of squatting these spaces, which is reusing and recycling empty space, many thousands of people came through these spaces. And, the Climate Emergency Centre movement didn't come out of nowhere. I've had to tell some people recently, you have to appreciate that we stand on the shoulders of giants, that this movement that we are here now is what it is because of the levellers, the diggers, the suffragettes, the chartists, and more recently the Greenham Common women and the road protesters and the climate campers, and all of these things feed into modern movements and what we're doing. So basically, for many years we set these centres up. About 7-8 years ago, we set up a charity called Space Generators. And like I say, coming to more modern history now, during lockdown, sat down, wrote down 35 years of knowledge from setting up horizontal, circularly organised facilitators, coordinators, how to set up a climate emergency centre in 10 steps. So here it is. It's on the website, climateemergencycentre.co.uk. And that's not come from nowhere. It's come from all of those movements. It's come from 35 years of blood, sweat and tears, action, jumping on bulldozers, networking, going to meet councils, doing lots of things. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and how we actually do this. We know we are reaching all of these climate tipping points really, really, really quickly now. And this is why we need to act very fast and urgently to focus on the solutions, to come together, to cooperate, to create those kind of futures we want to see. So, I don't have to tell this room, but, a lot of we are reaching all these tipping points of, what's happening to the rivers and the oceans and the forests, and we have to act fast, donut economics. So we have the solutions. We have the solutions. There are thousands and thousands of solutions. For many years we did a project called Solution Zone TV, and we went all around the climate summits asking people, what do you think the solutions are? Solutions. Communities have the solutions. What's needed is the physical spaces and the land and a cooperative attitude and some funding and the skills being shared to bring about those solutions futures. And unfortunately at the moment, we recycle bottles of cans and plastic, but we don't recycle our biggest resource, one of the biggest resources humans create, which is empty buildings. Every community you can see, all these locked up buildings. The figures about 10 years ago were, this is from the Empty Homes Agency, figures are a bit out of date, it's about 10 plus years ago, but it was 800,000 empty residential buildings, 600,000 empty commercial or non-residential buildings. That's 1.4 million empty buildings in the UK. The figures for hidden homeless people, that's including people who are homeless, landless and living in bed and breakfast with their families and whatever it is, temporary accommodation, it was about 500,000, 500,000. That's 3 empty buildings for every homeless person in this country. We are trying to prove the economic case, the social case, the environmental case, that these buildings should be used. We want policy to change from our government. And now we have a new regime in, we hope maybe there might be some more sensible policies. But basically, there are all these empty buildings, all of our communities can see them, and in this handbook there is a recipe how to get an empty building, basically. This has come from the grassroots, from marginalised groups that have come and got all sorts of people together to work together. More recent movements, have helped to generate enough direct action that we've had some action, and 300 councils have declared climate emergency. Unfortunately, 300 councils declared climate emergency. That's fantastic, but they've had austerity and budget cuts, and they haven't, had the resources to enact these things and to do as much. So basically, in the handbook, there's a method. So the basic method, I'm going to chuck it out here. Other people would charge you a lot of money for this. I do it for free. I do it for love, but we need help. Help us with funding. Come and get involved. Volunteer afterwards. Whatever it is. Basically, if you are a not-for-profit company, or if you are a charity, or if you're a co-op that is not-for-profit, every single one of these empty buildings is being charged something called empty building business rates. So that 3-storey office block you can see in Epsom or Everton or Brighton or wherever it is, or Bristol, is paying £100,000 a year, say, empty building business rates. So if the owner of that basically pays £100,000 every single year, it's empty before they've got someone renting it, they're losing a lot of money. So this is a win-win-win situation. You're not-for-profit legal entity, but we've got short guides to help groups setting up, and we've helped many groups set up a charity or a not-for-profit on the network, on the Climate Emergency Centre network. They can then apply for something called discretionary business rates from the council, say we're doing all these good things, arts, crafts, community, bike repair, computer repair, something for old people, something for young people, community work, community things, then they will give you up to 100% of the business rates. So the empty building business owner gives you a meanwhile lease. That means they use it in the meanwhile. They give it to you for 1, 2 or 3 years until they develop it, or they find someone who's going to rent it. Sometimes you'll get like 6 months or a year with a 28-day notice to leave after a certain period. But it's a win-win-win situation. It's a win for the property owner, who bottom line they care about the money, and they save £100,000. It's a win for the council because they get to say, hey, we're doing something about the climate emergency. Here is Preston's Climate Emergency Centre. Here is Lewis's Climate Emergency Centre. Here's Totness's Climate Emergency Centre. Here's Norfolk's one. Just to stress, they are all autonomous. They are all independent. We set this up non-hierarchically, horizontally. We could have tried to set up as a brand and from top down, but we're not that kind of people. It's grassroots, bottom up. Everyone's autonomous in their town, their city, setting things up. So that's basically in the recipe of that. And the last big win and the best win is that basically all of these communities get an amazing building to meet, to talk, to have art, to have workshops, to have dance classes, to have theatre, to have band rehearsals, to cabaret, to have environmental meetings, to paint that 30-foot banner you wanted to do, to repair that bike shop, to do repair cafe. These are just some of the things that a lot of the centres quite popular to do. Repair cafes, bike repair, community fridges, clothes swaps. All of these things are, building the circular economy. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build the spaces and the infrastructure for a sustainable future and for a better future and stuff. So how do you do it? Well, it's all there in the handbook, how to set up a climate emergency centre in 10 steps. Basically, at the beginning, we can help you as a network to set up a not-for-profit as a charity or a charity or not-for-profit company, or a co-op that's not-for-profit. Would be good if more groups did co-ops because they're more horizontal. You do have a bit of a hierarchical structure when the moment you do a not-for-profit company or charity. But basically, we can help you to set these things up. The idea is that we all share documents, ideas, information, and gradually over the years build up this network that helps and supports each other. You set up working groups. So one group is about setting up a legal entity. One group, you just start with 5 to 6 to 7 friends, or an affinity group, or a group in your town. It's about building a wider alliance of groups, but with 5, 6, 7 people, you start to have some meetings. The Magnificent Seven can do anything. Obviously, it's a lot better when you have 12. Somebody asked me the ideal number. Well, obviously, when you get to 21, that's a lot of people and lots of good working groups. But start with 7 brave people who want to do something and get together and start organising. Get your working groups, legal entity, searching for a building. Let's get off on a bike and go and look round. But also, it's contacting your council. We found there's certain key people in the councils to talk to, whether it's the property manager, the estates manager, or the climate policy officer. You've got to go to the councillors as well, go to the head of the council, go to the head of the environment department, getting the officers and the councillors working together. So you search for the building, you build relationships with the council and also with the local developers. And hopefully, over the next 3, 6 months, 9 months, it's a longer-term project. Someone within the council will introduce you to a property owner that's got a few empty buildings. Our charity Space Generators and the Climate Emergency Centre Network can help you to negotiate meanwhile leases. It is a little bit more complex, but we're here all to help each other. We are here to accelerate getting these spaces for all of our movements, for our movement of movements, to get together and have these spaces to build, to make, to organise, to cooperate, to focus on the solutions. And what's incredible from this handbook, we never knew it would get so big. So, writing it during lockdown from 35 years of doing it, we put it out around a lot of networks. Our network of 35 years and Transition Towns and XR and Greenpeace and all the different networks we could find, pumped it out, networking non-stop. And basically, suddenly the first one we did was in Ilford in a massive old home base, ginormous building, like a hangar. And it was a bit hard, really hard job to get it going. We were coming out of lockdown. We opened for 3 months, then they made us lock it down again. Opened for, closed for a few months, opened up again. And it was very hard to get people there. It's farther out in East London, massive aircraft hangar. You'd usually get 300 people to come to an event. It takes 3 months to get people to know you're there and start coming. 300 people to an event, and then you get about 30 in a massive aircraft hangar. It's like, right, come on, keep going. Anyway, we kept going. We ran it for 2 years. It opened up for the last year, pretty solid. We did everything from upcycle, recycle markets to eco-fashion shows to recycling computers to alkaline festivals to eco shows to talks, workshops, meetings. People got together and had all sorts of groups got together and organised and did things. And communities need space. In every community, there is young and old people with great ideas. They want to set up a little eco-enterprise. They want to set up a business. They want to set up a group, a project, whatever it is. Our centres have been motherships for hundreds of other projects over 35 years. I've seen the magic of an empty building with 10 rooms and a big hall turn into a buzzing mothership of people, projects, events, music, parties, theatre, things going on, people coming and going. We've set up this recycling group, this renewable energy group, whatever it is. You don't always see the ripples of the things that you do. Somebody come up to me like 8 years later at a festival and said, "You know that octagonal church building you had? Well, I had a conversation at one of the parties there, and I'm now doing a renewable energy company with a guy I met in that party, and we're doing brilliant. Thank you very much for that." And I was like, wow, I didn't even know you were one of the 300 people who came to that party. That's great. That's really brilliant. We need these spaces for those kind of conversations. And so people come to you and say, "I need space to do this. I've got an idea. There's a room over there. Have a go." We do everything on a sliding scale. Groups with more money pay more. Groups with less money pay less. So there's some of the recipes of how you get a building. You look round you try and build a relationship with developers through the council, through whoever you can contact. It's a recipe. Any of those empty buildings you can look up online, try and find out the planning permission, who the owners are. You can email them. Keep going. We'll help each other. We've got, some incredible people. I work with a much older lady who's brilliant at negotiating leases. She's been doing stuff since the 60s, and she helps groups get the meanwhile leases on the table. Let me tell you a little story there, beautiful one, I suppose. Stories and narratives, they tell me what it's all about. We do like a good story, don't we? Yeah, I say audience participation, lovely. So it is a lovely story of Swindon Community Hub. So the first one was in the old home base. I think the second one was in Staines. I'll tell you a story of that in a minute. Staines. We actually managed to get the east and the west side massive in Staines together, cooperating. We have a cheer for that? Hey! Ali G joke, all right. So basically, in Swindon, Linda, the old lady I work with, was chatting to the owner of the Swindon Debenhams, trying to see whether we could use the Debenhams. I spoke to some people from the Green Networks in Swindon. They said we've got tons of community groups, we've got a few environmental groups. And after a long chat, it turned out the owner of Debenhams didn't want to give the Debenhams, but he gave them the River Island. So we got a meanwhile lease, 89% negotiated. They finished off. They got a 2-year meanwhile lease. And it's a 2-story River Island. Went in and was completely empty. Helped them for the first 3 months. Got on with helping another 5, 10, 15 groups around the network. And on their second birthday, I went back for the second birthday. Amazing. This place is buzzing. It's filled with stalls and 30, 40 different art exhibitions had for International Women's Day and all sorts of stuff. They got cheapest cafe in town. Oh, we're signing, nice. And cheapest cafe in town. They get old people together there. They get young people together there. The young people come in and play pool after school. They've got a refugee group. This the afternoon manager's telling me. I said, got a refugee group that comes and uses space. They've got home educating. 120 kids come in and use upstairs to do home education workshops. They've had all sorts of meetings, talks, workshops, dub reggae nights, tons of markets and stalls, people getting a bit of self-employment, earning a bit of coin, helping each other out. And the lady who does social media said, we estimate, because we're in the middle of the high street, reaching out to all the Joe and Jane public, we estimate, because we're near Boots and McDonald's or whatever, we estimate we've had 200,000 people through in 2 years, Phoenix. Yeah, round of applause for that one. I'm like, what, 200,000 people? That's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And then another beautiful story. They introduced this 8-year-old volunteer. So this is Edith. She's 82. She's our oldest volunteer. Now, all these little features of volunteer things. And she says, when I moved to Swindon, I didn't know anybody. She said, now I'm a volunteer at Swindon Community Hub. I know everybody. And she had this massive smile on her face. That's what we do it for. That is what is, that's gold dust. All of these stories, all of these things need to be written down properly. We were going to work with a university group, but urban planning from Sheffield University, UCL and Brighton, to study all the things, how many people came through, how many workshops, how many jobs created, all these other, diversity of people coming in. And unfortunately, lockdown happened, so they didn't come to do it. We're 3 years in now. And just to say how it's grown, it's gone from one centre to 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 12, 15. There are now 28 autonomous, call themselves what they like, but part of a loose network that helps each other. 28 climate emergency centres around the UK using empty shops on the high street. Go on, give it up. Hey. That is incredible. That is what we need, and we're hoping that the network's going to be growing to 30, 40, 50 centres over the next couple of years. It's growing fast. We need a lot of help. It's far outstripped capacity. We do this with very little funding. We've had a couple of 10 grand from Lush probably, and it's run on phone bills and activist enthusiasm. We need volunteers. We need help with lots of things. So, 8 out of the first 24 climate emergency centres were given by councils, and the other 16 or whatever it is are by private developers who are saving their money on the business rates. There are teams in 28 different physical centres exist now. There's a map on the climateemergencycentre.co.uk website. Got some flyers after. And there are also about another 35, 40 teams, which could be 2 or 3 people or 5, 10, 15 people in a few working groups in about 35 to 40 cities who've said, we want to get a centre, help us. We want to get a centre. But like I say, it's far outstripped capacity. We always need help with a lot of things. So there's a lot of groups all around the country, just a few other stories. Lewis was given an old shop. Well, actually, they rang us and said, we need a place to meet. First of all, groups need a place to meet. Where are we going to meet? So I linked them up with Zoo Studios, and Martin had a bus garage cafe. So he started having meetings there, chatted to the council. A few months later, the council said you can have this shop opened by the mayor. They had an opera singer at the opening or something or whatever. It's Lewis and really good spot at Info Cafe, Basic Community Centre. Phoenix's Basic Community Centre. I saw this at the M11 when I first went there. Is a kettle and some cups and a table of leaflets. That's the beginning of community centre, because then you can make tea, you can give leaflets, you chat about what you're doing, and you can grow from one space in the front. From a reception through to the next space could be cafe with a kettle and leaflets, and then you've got art gallery on the other side with some pictures, and somebody put some bikes in a room, that's bike repair. You get some books in a room, that's your library, bring your books in. So Lewis opened up with the mayor. Then I think about 8 months later the roof fell in. They were like, the roof fell in. I said, oh shit. So they didn't have a building for about 6 months, and then the Lewis Council love what they're doing so much they gave them a 3-year lease on a really nice, beautiful building on the high street. Fantastic. Totnes also has an amazing building, old mansion type thing, on a 3-year lease in the middle of the high street. So some of the stories. Seaford has been given an old NatWest bank. So imagine going into a bank where all the tills used to be, and I nearly welled up. I was nearly in tears when I said there was a big rainbow there, all the kids area, and then they got everything. They got like library and info space and seed place, and they do extreme beach cleanups. They go and clean up the local beach. Some of the groups have been adopting their local rivers. We're hoping more action teams can go out to some of these 28 centres, clean up rivers, clean up beaches. A long-term dream is that November we could get 30, 40, 50 centres to go and plant 1,000 trees each, and suddenly you've got 30,000 trees being planted. We need to accelerate. We need to speed up planetary repair very, very, very quickly. We are, in a lot of critical situations. So a lot of different diversity, a lot of different groups, from for the first ones, Lewis, Staines, Lewis, Seaford, Swindon, Guildford. Guildford's a shining example, really. It's a very affluent area. They organised for a year, got themselves all into working groups, got the local university involved, all singing, all dancing when they opened. One of the guys, Ben's a builder, so they fixed everything, really good stages and everything. And it really was an example, massive to me, an example of solutions on the high street from, electric transport and their little vertical farming pods they got a grant for, and climate anxiety sofa for chatting there. They had kids and parents clothes swaps, had a vegan cafe. They, a lot of these promoting vegan, veggie things on the high street out to people. They had a recycling TerraCycle thing. They had amazing displays, pictures of local wildlife and the local rivers. And in the back, they had like insulation and then solar panels. And I was like, that's brilliant. They had a solar panel display on their opening day with someone in front of it all day, talking about solar panels to people. That's brilliant. How do you organise that? I said, that's easy. We've just got a local solar panel company. They're happy to chat to people about solar panels all day. And then there was an activist corner with, Greenpeace, XR, Youth Strike for Climate, and beautiful little thing. You walked up towards this, within 6 foot of the speaker, and there was a little beam, and suddenly this 15-year-old's voice came up saying, this is why we're doing Youth Strike for Climate. We've got to take action now. So they're promoting all activism, solutions, environmental things. We really got to prove the case for these buildings. Hull, there's a few groups that have joined the network that have been going for a long, long time, like Colchester. It's had a charity for about 20 years, and they said, we love what you're doing with the network, we want to join up. Other ones like Hull, again, they've been doing Meanwhile Leases for 20 years, organised a whole Humber Eco Fest, and they said, we love what you're doing, we want to join the network. Another one in Northampton, the Umbrella Centre, been going for a lot of years. Hull is on the front line of climate change. I went to their big conference, Humber Eco Fest, loads of people from all over. They're literally, the flood waters, when it floods, are right on the edge of the flood defences. They're going to come right over. And the guy was telling me, it's hard to get a mortgage because insurance companies are saying, you are flooding, you're going to flood more. And Hull's passed a community right to grow as well on food. We really want to build in, we've set this up as horizontal, all the groups are autonomous. We really want to build in, decentralising and horizontal things. The idea is that you have a people's assembly. Maybe I'll say a bit more of that in a second. I've just got a couple more examples. And then, so Staines got an old betting shop off the council, number 2 Climate Emergency Centre. They're called the Talking Tree, an old Saxon word for like a talking circle. They were given the council building and they've packed it. They've been there for about 3 years. They had 2,000 meals during lockdown for people, a week or something. And they've done loads of different, all sorts of talks, workshops, kids open mics. They've now been given land by TfL to do community right to grow food stuff. They've been invited onto the Surrey Climate Commission as an exemplar thing to put ideas in from the public. And they were given initially... Oh, did I explain a bit? Initially, they were given a bit of money by the council, 8 different so a number of councils, each councillors had some money. They gave them £2,000 to set up. In this model, if you get the money from a private property developer, in that example, if you're saving them £100,000 a year, then sometimes in the negotiation, you can ask them for what's a charitable donation back from things, and they will sometimes give you 10, 15 or 20,000 pound to set up your new project. So this is, it's a self-funding project. It's a word they love. Leader of Haringey Council love that one. They're giving all their buildings to property guardians. We had a meeting with them after we'd done a big project in Dalston, and they said, if we gave you a building, would it cost anything? And we're like, well, no, we're self-funded. You give us a building and we fill it up with events and talks and sliding scale. People charge a £5, £10 on the door, come in, get involved. hire out the main hall for 200 quid, 300 quid, 500 quid, depends how much money they got, whatever it is, for free, good cause. And he said, great, that's really good. He said to the other councillor, you know, how many buildings have we got with property guardians? Says, 9. It's like, wow, 9. He said, and does that cost us anything? He said, yeah, they charge us, the council, to look after our buildings. And they also charge the people who are renting them to be security guards. We're anti that model. These buildings, the best buildings in our communities, schools, hospitals, town halls, old people's homes. King's Cross, prime example, went to visit a mate, he was in a 20-room homeless hostel. There's only 4 people in there. So he gave that building to this model, we'd have 10 groups and projects in there and 10 people housed in there. You know, we need to reuse these spaces. So Staines got given £9,000 from the council to do 3 people's assemblies. What's your timeline? So to do 3 different people's assemblies, consulting the people of Staines about what they wanted, and then the council said, we will take all this information back in and we will feed it into council policy, and we promise we will do our best to act on it. That's a really key thing. You can do all these people's assemblies, but how do we get them into councils, governments? How do we get them to actually act on it? And whether they're going to do it or not, we have to act, because, you know, we need citizens-led action, because we've been trying since the 1992 Rio Earth Summit. It's been really hard to get a building out of a council. I've been to tons of council meetings. And now suddenly 8 out of 24 are being given by councils because 300 declared climate emergency. There's good people within councils, good people within government. I've also had a meeting with government departments. And long story short, I can't tell you all the full blah, but basically our group who came away, and we had some very experienced consultants and people in the room, they came away from this meeting with the government department and said, wow. We'd asked them, have you got any funding? I said, no. Said, have you got any, because they said maybe we could work, you know, to promote some things about energy or whatever. And so you got any money? No. Any budget? No. Have you got any direction from higher up in the department? No. Everyone came away and went, they don't know what they're doing, do they? The previous regime did not care that much about the environment. They didn't know what they're doing. No one was at the rudder of the ship. No, government is not coming to save you. We need to organise in our communities, take action, set up people's assemblies very, very quickly. So part of the model, we've come through Occupy and other previous movements that had people's assemblies. On the first day of the Occupy movement, I'd like us to get back to this stage, to be as organised as we were around People's Global Action that came out of Reclaim the Streets, the going into Occupy. First day I'm on Occupy London St Paul's steps. BBC journalist talking to the camera. He says, today over 900 cities have got occupations going on. I kind of waited till he came off camera. I said, mate, did I hear you right? Did you say 900 cities? He said, yeah, 900 cities. So 900 cities experimenting with horizontal, direct democracy, decentralised organising. Incredible. The Occupy movement got broken up, split up, you know, whatever it was, lots of different things. But we were a success on day one. And part of the Climate Emergency Centre Handbook is that each of these centres, 28 of them now, could every couple of months have a people's assembly, both in the building but also out in the public park, because some people don't come into buildings and more people see it in the park and join in, and record it digitally. We're trying to talk to some groups who can do that. And then you could be getting ideas in from 30, 40 cities, from Birmingham to Brighton to Bristol, saying this is what we're talking about on housing, energy, agriculture, transport. Jamie Kelsey-Fry wrote the People's Assembly Handbook, was involved with Occupy. He said, Bristol Council says, you're knocking on an open door with people's assemblies. We want you to do people's assemblies. We will listen to you. We will take on board what you do, what you put into us, if you have a big people's assembly in Bristol. There are good people within councils. We've got to keep working on building cooperative things. So last few things here. I've probably got another 5 minutes, and we've probably got to go to 20 minutes of questions. What can we slam out in the last? All sorts of types of housing. Buildings are being used, from churches, factories, warehouses, mansions, libraries, all different sorts of shapes, and banks, shops and factories and things are being used and can be used. And you can see empty. And it's not just about one empty building setting up one community centre. You could have a bigger building that could be the community centre. You could have some smaller shops that are empty that could be, selling recycled, upcycled, trade, craft, things that in your local community are making. There could also be a warehouse in town that could be building the circular economy, recycling furniture, computer, bikes. You know, it's not about one empty building. It's about the intelligent reuse of the vacant property infrastructure in all of our towns and cities. And we very fast need to link up this network around the UK that can clean up the rivers, clean up the beaches, plant trees, pump out solutions on the high street with displays, with events, with talks, with meetings. A better future is possible, but we've got to work very hard and very, very fast. We're reaching all of those tipping points. So let's get the people's assemblies together. Let's digitally share what we are learning and stuff. And that's what we need to do. So last few bits, really. I went to visit an amazing group in Norfolk. Norfolk Unity Hub, big up the Norfolk Massive. Big up the Zebras. Big up Catherine Gates over there. So basically... the local group linked me up to, there's an alliance of groups called the Norfolk Unity Hub, and they are being given the old council, big old mansion that used to be Norfolk County Council, and then before that Norwich County Council offices, 4-storey, big mansion, beautiful place, and massive 300-foot long 4-storey office. And they are going to pack it with 20, 30 different groups, everything from youth to pottery to architects to psychologists to workshops, talks, meetings, all the stuff I've kind of listed before in here. And one of the big amazing things they're going to do is they're going to do social impact reports from all of those 20 groups, how many people came in, what diversity of people. And then we need to prove this case environmentally, socially, dealing with loneliness, getting people cooperating, and environmentally, and most importantly, to get people in government and business and council listen economically. If you give us an empty shop in the high street like Swindon, the local property agent guy that we work with, he says it's improved footfall, it's brought people back to the high street after COVID, all the local traders are happy because their sales have gone up, more people have come because they're coming to an open mic on a Friday night and buying a packet of crisps or whatever it is on the way in. We need to prove this case very, very fast. We also need to share more and consume less. And I mean, send everyone on the high street to keep consuming. We need to be sharing. They've got a real solutions focus. It's a loose network. We all help each other. We have a webinar every Wednesday, and we help each other share documents, share ideas, share skills. And, we need to cooperate very fast. We help groups upscale and accelerate getting a legal entity and negotiating with councils. And then they'll be like, how do we do this health and safety? Well, we've got an expert and a document there. And what do you know about insurance? So we're here to help each other. We've made loads of mistakes. No one's perfect. We've made loads of learnings. It's always a collective of people, always a circle of people, always a network. And we do our best to, keep working on the horizontalising. So it's also about building community alliances. It's not about one group going in and setting up that building. It's about trying to get, your Friends of the Earth, your Transition Town, your Greenpeace, your parents group, your ethnic group, your student group, your gardeners group, your recycling, and say, look, there's that massive empty building, or start small to medium and grow to bigger buildings. There's that medium-sized 3-storey building. Would 4 of our groups like to be the hub? Transition Town have got a legal entity. These guys have got a load of volunteers from the youth club. Would you like to see if we can get the old Woolworths and do it up? And, all sorts of buildings, like I say, have been used. All, famous brands that, are being used for these centres. Most popular things: repair cafes, tree planting, community fridge, swap shop, bike repair, community fridge, open mic, music nights, and tree planting, some of them doing. So what else is to say, really? We're coming towards the tail end of this, but just to say, we really need these solutions on the high street. There's only kind of 3 things about the centres being mutually cooperative and helping each other and being focused on solutions. We know how bad it is. As activists, we've been hearing for 35 years how really bad it is. And I'm a realist. I'm also a survivalist. And I know, having been evicted for 25 years of my life, that the best survival tactics is to be optimistic, to get back on your feet very quickly, to organise and get together. Citizen-led initiatives are the best ones that have reacted to disasters like Occupy Sandy and other things. So I think I'll probably chat at you a lot, and we should probably go to some questions fairly soon. But it's about mutual aid, it's about cooperation, and it's about building resilient communities and networks. They are community-led. We try and get the communities to get involved, come to the organising meetings, set up people's assemblies. What else is to say, really? We've got some leaflets afterwards. If you want to find out more, it's climateemergencycentre.co.uk. My name's Phoenix. Happy to chat to anyone who wants to help or volunteer or talk to us about working out funding or empty buildings. You are all the seeds of a better future. You can see empty buildings in your community. Just try and get together with 5 or 6, 7 friends. and we all help each other, and we get these spaces going, and they're the infrastructure for a sustainable future. We need space. Phoenix's law of space. If you have space, it will fill up. If we've got a 20-room building, everyone's going to come and say, can I do a dance class? Can I do this, that, and the other? So what else to say? Focus on the solutions. Keep organising your communities. Take action every day. Relentlessly give out leaflets. Talk to as many people as you can, and see if you would like to get an autonomous, decentralised climate emergency centre set up in your community, and magic will happen, and solutions will happen, and a better future will be a little bit closer for us and our grandchildren. Thank you very much.
Are there any other spaces at the Green Gathering where we can have equally inspiring 20-minute, 40-minute conversations about resistance over the years?
Big up veggies. Fantastic. So just right next door, thank you for reminding me to advertise what takes a lot of love and a lot of energy. Next door here, just 20 foot over the fire lane, is the Resistance exhibition. And it's a big white tent with Resistance on it, and it's got 40 years of protest photo and video. A lot of different movements that have come through various different centres and spaces. Please come in and check it out. Learn from the past to create the future. And there's a list of 19 current activist groups and things that are going on now that you can get involved with help. It's not just about the past. And big up Veggies. And just to say, 40 years of campaigning from Veggies and Pat here. Every one of these climate emergency centres is promoting vegetarian, vegan cafes. And we're trying to get more information in about how that's better for the environment and the land and the people and the animals. Over.
Hi, James Goblin. I run the Frome International Climate Film Festival.
Good.
So we've now had 857 films this year from 47 countries. So the challenge we've got is actually, I mean, interesting with your network, and I've had a brief conversation with Bex as well, of looking at how do we get those out, because some of those are informational and they're obviously very inspiring from around the world, lots of different countries involved. So be happy to have a conversation to see how we can, and I've got some with me if you've got any time on your machine at some, I know you're fully booked, but at least there's an offer of help to see how we can perhaps collaborate. So when we do our awards, when whatever else, can they go out to spread the message?
Definitely. One of the quickest things we say to people to set up in a centre is, you know, get your kettle in leaflets for your cafe, and then borrow a video projector. And there are so many good films. A picture paints 1,000 words, and if you can give us a list of good films and anything we can put through the network, email out to people, this is how they can put good films out and promote what you're doing. We will promote. Yeah, definitely. Nice. Let's have a chat after.
Hi, Jess. Hiya.
Hello.
I work for Transition Stroud and now Transition Together as well, somehow. So, yeah, hello. In Stroud, we've been looking for a space for a really long time.
Empty tax office?
Empty bags, and everything. We keep getting knocked back. So I think we just need to talk to you probably, or maybe hook into the Wednesday night thing. We've got quite a few people in the group who've been looking for quite some time, and we just keep getting rentals. And meanwhile, spaces are literally 2 weeks, you know, pointless spaces, really. So, yeah, that's been our struggle.
Jess, is it?
Yeah, Jess.
I have chatted to people from Stroud before, and I know that you've got a powerhouse of energy there in Stroud. There's some big names and people and movements and
we have
people
a lot
around.
of spaces, but
Right.
none on the high street.
Okay.
So we've got loads of community spaces, amazing initiatives, but what we don't have is public engagement on the high street.
We would love to help you in some way. Let's have a chat afterwards. It would be really good. Some people came up to me and said there's an empty tax office. It's been empty there for ages. You got Dale Vince in here. You got some other big network. What is the council
He won't
saying?
let us use his space.
Really?
We've asked. Yeah,
Is it empty?
He just sold the big one.
Oh,
yeah.
well, I mean, sometimes it really helps if other people from out town come and help, and other people help and advise. And with councils particularly, I mean, there's councils that are property developers. Councils need to feel confident that they're not sticking their neck out. And if they've declared climate emergency,
Yep.
Let me give you an example. Preston, they were asking for a year, and the council leader was going, brilliant idea, and all the politicians, brilliant idea, but they're not doing anything. Then we had a meeting with the climate policy officer. We got Linda and me and some others in a Zoom with Debs from Preston, and we said, look, she's been trying for a year and he can't get a building. She wants that one in town. And he was new in the job. We said, look, we'll make you look good. as a climate policy officer, if you helped to get the building share, within 2 weeks he found out the owner, he got a meanwhile lease, he talked on the table beginning, and he spoke to the business rates department, said they'd give 100%. It needs push from a lot of angles. We're happy to help you. Let's chat afterwards and let's try and get a space open. Come and visit. Let's make it happen.
Oh, I should say we do have a small space that amazing projects set up, but it's too small.
You've got a beachhead, is what we call that. You've got somewhere to at least have meetings and start from.
Yeah, so we've got bike repair and sales, and we just come out of a meeting last night to help someone set up a share and repair.
Wicked.
So it's good, but it's very tiny.
One, two, three other things. Sometimes a bit of pressure, having a little demo like the old days, media. And building those relationships with the councillors or the owners is the crack to get through. And it is hard. The hardest one is to get your first building in. Once you've got this first building, you're in this magical club of property people that they'll then give you other buildings. But until you get that first one, it's like trying to climb a massive wall. So we'll help each other, yes.
Yeah, no, the current project it's a peppercorn rent, but it's still a rent. So what you're talking about is something different. And I think that's where, we're probably all in the space looking to explore, basically. Thank you.
It's a rent-free model where peppercorn's like £1 a year. So
it's a bit more than that.
is it? Oh dear. Okay. Brilliant. Let's get one going in Stroud. Make it happen. Get the doors open.
I'm also from Stroud, actually.
Yeah, come on.
And I don't know this lady, but one of the things that I was thinking was almost the opposite of that, actually. My question that I had, and maybe it's partly even part of the answer, I don't know, of why there's some pushback, is that, Stroud is in a very affluent area. It's got pockets of real deprivation and it's very hilly. And actually the people what I've often been told is, you talked a lot about the high streets and it was really, really inspiring. The people perhaps in the greatest need maybe don't even come into the town centre. And, they've lost a lot of their community centres. There are little community hubs and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know, if that's a narrative that you've come across a lot about and what your response to that would be. Is it we find ways of getting people to come into the town centre more? Is it, how do we make it more accessible? Or is it that we build stuff out in the outlying areas where the community centres used to be and have gone? Or, yeah.
That's a really good question. To reach out to as many people as possible, getting somewhere on the high street with high footfall is best. If you get a warehouse off an industrial district, it's harder to get people to come and see your community centre. You can do it. You network a lot. They come, but they've got to travel there by different means and get there. If you're on the high street, it's easier to get to. More people will come. However, like you say, there's deprived areas and there's bigger areas. And, I think the group in Leeds was saying they got some funding from central government to try and set up 8 climate hubs around the different areas of Leeds. And sometimes, I think also in Ilford, where we set up the first climate emergency centre, there was also a council group, came in and did some big discussions about setting up climate community and climate hubs. But they're very slow moving. They were like, we're going to set one up in 2 years' time. We were like, well, the space is here now, just come and use it. And they did, and they hired it out. I think it's very good to organise locally in your community. A little story jumped into my mind there was the 15M movement around time of Occupy. They recognised, they left the big main squares after 3 months of setting up the camps, and they said, go back into your communities. Don't just wait here till it dissipates and gets messy and the government splits you up and whatever. Go back into your communities and organise in your communities continually. Set up community centres, set up libraries, set up things. So, yes, if you've got a big city, like I said, it's not about one community centre building in the centre of town. It's about the intelligent reuse of the vacant property infrastructure in all our town cities. So to get attention, getting one on the high street, to get lots of people, but really in the longer term, you want 4 or 5 or 6, 8 spaces around in local communities, using the library, the post office that closed down, using a warehouse to do recycled stuff, projects, music, events, computer recycling, training, and there's funding out there for all these things, but we need the space first of all. So, yeah, try and find other spaces, and also working in deprived communities. A lot of this has come from very marginalised, deprived, homeless landlords, but we've had beggars to baronesses getting together to talk to us and try and help, and we need everyone to cooperate. I think we've got 5 minutes, so hope that helped there. But take action everywhere. Find any space you can and start. The hardest part is just to start. Get a group of 5 to 7 friends and go for it.
Not sure if this is a statement or a question, but maybe we can chat later.
Statement's okay.
So I live in central Portugal, have done for 14 years. There's others 20 maybe of us building little small holdings. 25 years we've been there. English, Irish, you name it, Spanish. We were hit by the forest fires 2 years ago. I nearly lost my life. The place was at the central Portugal was on fire for a month. My village was on fire for a week. I nearly died fighting the fire personally. 2 years before that, dozens of people did die within 20 years in my village. So climate change is a loss of life to me personally. The solution they seem to be using is SRM, solar radiation management, which I've caught on video, so I can prove that this is a thing. And if you just look into it, the Portuguese have been doing it for 20 years, but they haven't asked us. There's nothing in my post box. There's no consensus. There's no conversation. It seems to be a secret. So even amongst my community, nobody knows, or they have an idea, but there's no gathering, there's no people's assembly. And there is a geoengineering, which is what they call solar radiation management. There's a few techniques they use. So that means cloud seeding, putting sulfur dioxide or silver iodine. We're not sure because they're not telling us. So I've seen it, I've watched it happen, I've got it on video, I watched the weather. It did rain, but for one day. That didn't really help. So Portugal's still too hot. And so I've got 20 days exactly to go back to my community, talk to my friends, talk to the local Portuguese population, and send a delegation to Lisboa, where there's a conference on geoengineering. It's free. So we need to go not as activists or opposed, because the solution may well be the solution, which is cooling central Portugal down. But it made me feel sick. So the solution is also a problem. Yeah, so I've got 20 days to sort this all out, get a delegation to Lisbon, find out what they're doing and why, what we feel about it and what we're going to do about it. But 20 days is long.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting one. It made me think about land climate emergency centres, but also, I mean, what's to say on, we have to weigh up all the things we do as humans to the environment and, what we put out into the environment. There are many, many, many different solutions, from natural solutions to technological solutions. Some people have issues with things like carbon capture and storage. I know they're starting to seed clouds in various different locations, from China to Africa to Saudi Arabia to here. We as humans need to look at any of these kind of technological solutions and what the effects are further on down the line and different effects and things. We have the solutions, but we have to weigh things up as to how things affect. And I think Greta Thunberg, was it George Monbiot saying, we have a very natural solution here for climate change. It's called a tree. And, there's many, many things we can do to replant, to shift things. Trees, hemp and kelp apparently are three of the biggest solutions to absorb CO2. Hemp absorbs 40 times the CO2 of the same acreage of trees or other plants. And we really, really need to be planting these things fast, apparently, according to the Centre for Alternative Technology. If we accelerate planting trees, hemp and kelp, it will give us enough time to bring in the renewable energy economy, which will reduce the fossil fuels, which will reduce some of these situations. We have to work very, very fast on the solutions, but we also have to be wise and think about any of those certain solutions if they're going to affect us, the animals, the environment further down the line. And the last little point there was, you said you're living on a piece of land. I think we're trying to link up land climate emergency centres. So there's 28 physical centres now. There's about another 6 in the pipeline. We're hoping within a couple of years, with a bit of funding, there'll be 50 centres. We're trying to link them with land centres. So anybody's got 2, 3, 5 acres or more of land. And then groups can come out from Birmingham to, wherever it's Shropshire and learn about growing food, plant trees, do permaculture, bring some food back into the city and cross-pollinate between city and country. So anyone who's got land projects, we had a big link up with Diggers and Dreamers the other week, and basically we're going to try and link city centres with land climate emergency centres and work on the land solutions, natural solutions as well.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Before we thank Phoenix, I'm pretty sure he's happy to take questions outside or in the resistance tent a bit later on. There are lots of other talks going on over the next couple of days. If you like what you see, come back, tell other people, but also this talk and many others will be on our YouTube vid, so you can send it out to folks, which is a really great way of getting the message out. Phoenix, thank you so much.
Keep networking, take action every day. Find an empty building near you.